Hi, it's Nicola, the People Mentor, and I'm here today with Nina, a career confidence coach, who I will introduce shortly. We're going to talk about, have you ever left a career conversation thinking, I should have said it differently? And I think we've all been there. So that one sentence could be the thing that makes a difference. So we're going to look at that for you today. So I'm Nicola, the People Mentor, as I've just said, and I've been leading and mentoring for well over 30 years. I started as a child in my parents' business from the age of 7, actually helping out, and that progressed. When my father ended up in hospital, I ended up running the front of the house. So, experience right from an early age. So, Nina, let's hear about you.
Oh, hello, everybody. So, as you just heard, my name is Nina, and I am a confidence boosting career coach. I give you that spark to change career step by step. Now, I also have been a mentor all my life. I look back to when I, again, was a child and I was at school, and I was always that person that had to help somebody else when they were struggling. Say they didn't have the bus money to go home, they didn't have the money for lunch. I would be someone that go along and find it for them through somebody else. I was that person that when I was at school, if you didn't have your pencils white for PE, you got detention. So guess what? I was that person that would go around and I'd find somebody who's got their whitener to do the pencils moving forward. Now, as I've grown through the years, I worked in the local authority and I worked up to being a team leader. And that's really where I was supposed to be. And that's really when I discovered my forte of being a mentor. I was the type of leader, the same as Nicole, who we cared about our staff. It wasn't a tick in the box when you did appraisals or you one-to-one. We showed them, if they want to be ambitious, how to work through the interview process, how to use their own skills going forward. So that's a brief little introduction about me.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Nina. And exactly, we're both very much about empathy and supporting other people. So, we're going to think about the power of one sentence. And it is amazing how one sentence can change everything, isn't it? So, how it changes, and shapes your confidence, your respect, and your career growth. Okay. So, question to you, Nina. Do
hmm
you think one sentence can change someone's career path, or is it the courage behind it?
Oh, it's definitely the courage behind it that matters the most. But one sentence can be the spark. But it's the mindset, the timing, and the bravery to speak up that truly shifts a career path. My angle is that confident isn't just about saying the words, it's about preparing yourself mentally so that when the moment comes, you can say them. You can say exactly what needs to be said, and then actions that open up the doors.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think it is, it's having that confidence, that courage in the first place to even get that sentence out. Um, and I think about occasions, I remember an occasion where I felt like I'd been sidelined because I'd taken partial retirement. I was still working part time and I wasn't getting any decent projects. We were looking at continuous improvement across the department and I felt like very much sidelined. I was getting little bitty projects that felt absolutely like they were going nowhere. And it really wasn't satisfying my motivation in here. And so I was really struggling. And the team had to meet this really senior leader. And I remember I kind of took all this courage and I said to him, I'm really not happy because I know I've got so much to give and I feel like I'm just whiling away time here. And just because I'm partially retired doesn't mean I don't want to do my best and really help the department move forward. And he actually listened and I said, we have a problem here where when you're partially retired, you're written off. And he actually went and got a project that I could sit on and really lead it that was making big waves. And I am so glad that he gave me that chance. But if I hadn't spoken out, then that would have never happened.
Exactly.
Have you had an occasion like that where you've sort of said something suddenly, realizing, getting that courage from within.
Thank you, Nicola. When I was a team leader in the local authority, I went on various courses as were offered, especially to new managers, and one of them was about policies and procedures, which I was very fascinated because I was that type of person, same as you, Nicola, we're very, very similar, is I wanted to learn. If I was going to be a team leader, I was doing it for the right reasons. I was doing it because I wanted to support and bring my team members on. I've always looked at being a team leader as a privilege. So as I was just saying, I actually had the highest turnover of staff. And the reason I had the highest turnover of staff is because I was so ambitious. My team were ambitious and they kept going from their basic scale threes or maybe fixed term contracts to full-time permanent contracts and much higher scales. Hence, I had a high turnover of staff. But I didn't mind because I thought I'm doing the job I'm supposed to do. And because of that, the chap I knew actually in the department on the other side of the kitchen, it was an open plan office when I worked for the local authority. And one of the chaps there, I remember him saying, "Oh, you're advertising again. How can I come and work on your team?" And we were having a little chat, and it turned out the reason he wanted to move to my team is he was being bullied by his manager in his team. Now, it took him a long time to actually open up to me. And I remember I think it was first of all a little email about how could he apply for a job on my team, and then it came out, and then he didn't actually put down about the bullying in the email, but he came and had a chat with me once the business had closed, which was a Friday afternoon at 4:30, and he was worried that his ex-manager, well, his manager then would see him. So we were quite having a chat about this. And again, because I understood about the policies, I remember arranging to go for lunch with him the following week, and I printed off the policy about, policy and bullying. It doesn't happen. If there is, how we raise it going forward. And I also spoke to my line manager about bullying, that somebody was bullying. And what she said to me is, don't get involved. And I remember I was horrified.
Yeah.
And I thought I didn't say anything to her because I wasn't going to get anywhere. But it actually came on from a conversation that she wanted to know who it was. And I said, well, he really is confidential. He doesn't want me to pass his name on. But if I can trust you, you're not going to say anything. So as soon as I said this person, she went, oh, yeah, I'm not surprised. Meaning she'd actually seen it. It was an open plan office. Other people in that office had seen him being pulled to pieces by his manager, which to me is disgusting. That's the only way I
Yeah,
can say it.
exactly.
And I wasn't going to keep quiet. So, as I said, we went for lunch. I found out more details. I had the policy to go through. I found out he was a member of Unison, which was our union, and I put him in touch with somebody that I actually trusted in Unison. And, we worked together. And then he did have the usual meetings, etc., with the manager. And then he was actually sidelined to a different career in a different department, and he's still thriving now.
Oh,
So
well, that's brilliant. So if you hadn't stepped in, he would still be stuck there, or probably he would have actually left.
I think he would have left and probably gone
Yeah,
on the dole. It was affecting his home life. It was affecting his relationship. He'd lost so much weight. He
yeah.
wasn't happy. He'd lost his
It's
self-worth.
appalling when you see this happening.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
And it is appalling that, like I said, I spoke to my line manager who said, don't get involved.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think you can ever think like that. And interestingly, when I was a team member, I got given the role of equal opportunity and diversity and was given some training. But part of my role was stamping out any bullying that was going on.
Right.
So I went round and did lots of talks around bullying. And as a result, people came to me and they talked about what they were struggling with. So I supported them in taking it forward. So yeah, it's an area where it can feel very hard and takes a lot of courage to do anything about. You often take it and end up leaving because you don't know how to have that conversation because it feels very vulnerable.
Yes, it does. It does. You've lost, and by the time you've got to the bullying and you realise you're being bullied, you've already had your confidence chipped away. You don't
That's
feel
right.
worthy. You don't feel there's anybody that you can actually speak to because you will have tried and not got anywhere. But if what you do find with bullies, it goes back to when you're in the playground and you have a group, a bully, and then a group of people go around them, they protect themselves. It's the same in the workplace.
Yeah,
And suddenly
absolutely.
you have no one you can turn to ask for help.
Exactly. Okay, so what do you think stops people from saying the things they really want to say?
What stops them from really saying? It comes down to it's the fear of what someone's going to say back to them. It's the fear of the reaction. Is somebody going to turn on them? Are they going to, the biggest part of it is, are they going to lose their job?
Absolutely. And if you're a manager, what I see when I do all my workshops is they're often frightened of what the reaction is going to be and whether they're going to be able to contain that person who might suddenly get angry or really emotional or even walk out. And it is a really big fear, I think, for
It is.
managers and for people who are individuals. As you say, there's this fear. Well, what will happen? Will they lose their job? Will they not be taken seriously? It's really concerning, isn't it?
It is because they will have witnessed other people being bullied and how it gets swept under the carpet.
Absolutely. So it is facing those fears really, isn't it? And it's about building that confidence, which is where you come in with your skills and where I come in with helping managers and leaders have those difficult conversations so that they don't feel they're on the back foot. So we both come at it from a different angle, but we give the support.
We do.
Okay.
We do.
So, thinking about what was the sentence that changed a career conversation for you, have you got any that sort of made the impact, helped you at the time?
Right, one moment that changed a career conversation for me was simply saying, I want more responsibility. I'm ready for the next step. Now, this
Yeah.
happened when I'd gone full time after my youngest son, James, had actually gone into high school. And I'd been on part-time hours before. It was school hour. It was term time only school hours. And it was my opportunity to actually start climbing the ladder again. And so when that happened and I went into central invoicing, it was the whole council had actually had a huge shift, as they often do, because it's all about money cutting exercises, as we know, with local authority. So the central invoicing team was down to a team of four. And whereas before, I think it's been about a team of about 10. So you had four managers overseeing the whole of the alphabet, which was cut into four. And I knew I wanted to be a manager. I knew that I had team leader skills. But coming in as a scale three, as I was there full time, I had to prove that I was capable of
Yeah.
applying for a team leader's role. So I remember having a meeting. It was actually my one-to-one with my then manager, who actually saw that I was ambitious and I asked for more responsibility. So he unofficially made me his supervisor. I was obviously it didn't change on my pay scale or anything like that, but I was referred to as his supervisor. So if there was, say, the vendors, which were the clients, because we paid all the invoices, he referred to me as his supervisor. Nina will speak with you, or I'll bring Nina into the meeting. And I got more responsibility of looking after accounts, of actually unblocking accounts so we could pay accounts. So that I would say that was the conversation for me that changed.
And I think that's a really good one. And I think that highlights to me something because I remember a similar thing where I'd always kind of been dismissed. I'd been going through a divorce. I was, they felt I was a bit flighty, if I'm really honest. Um, and it was simply because I'd got two young children at home. I was going through a divorce and I was really struggling at that point. But then one day we were moving as a team and our manager went off sick. And the senior manager was running around like a headless chicken and said, you know, oh, what we're going to do, what we're going to do. And I said, it's okay. I'll take this on. I'll sort this for you. And I did. And afterwards, I got loads of praise. And that changed the way they saw me. So sometimes I think people can get stuck in thinking they don't need to step up and offer or actually be shown to be taking that responsibility because there's sometimes these demarcation lines. And I think if you get stuck in that groove in that way, then you're not going to be able to show that you've got the skill sets to
Yeah,
move upwards. So I think we have to stop ourselves thinking like that, and we have to grab every opportunity we can to show what we're capable of.
absolutely. I agree there 100%.
Yeah. And it's funny though, because I would hear team members who would say, I'm not doing that. That's out of my remit. And so if you're like that, I don't think you're gonna progress because you're not giving yourself the opportunity to shine. So I think to me that's key. So it's not just the courage, but it's grabbing the opportunity.
It is grabbing the opportunity, and it's also, you have to be so careful because you might be feeling that, yes, I want to do this, I want to prove, but the person that you live with at home might be saying, oh, no, no, you're not being paid for that. Don't worry. Don't even go down that route. They're just going to use you, because that's what happened to me with my ex-husband as well. It was,
Yeah,
you can't do that. You're not being paid for it. What are you doing it? You're stupid.
yeah.
So
And then it saps your confidence. So
it
it's
does.
really doing that work and understanding what's going on at home as well. So, and that's really important. That's when having a coach can really make the difference, isn't it?
It is. It is. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And
Oh,
believing in yourself going forward.
so we're going to do a role play now, aren't we, Nina?
We
So we're
are,
going to look
yes.
at how can managers use one clear sentence to unlock honesty in their team. And that's really important because without honesty, we're not going to move forward. So the type of sentences that shift tone from my point of view are help me understand what matters most to you here. Because if we don't ask people and we don't show curiosity, then we get stuck in this place where we're not moving forward and we don't understand one another. And then another one would be setting a boundary, such as I'd like to contribute, but here's what I need first. And then another one, which I do love because it's reframing, is what would success look like for both of us? And I think that's really important because you're collaborating. And what we know from the Thomas Kilmann model is that collaborating is a win-win for both parties. And we tend to sometimes forget this. And managers and leaders will sometimes think they need to win and it doesn't matter about the other side. But if you want the buy-in and the going forward, you've really got to create that collaboration and that winning for both sides. So taking this into account, we've got an employee who wants progression and actually fears asking. So Nina's going to be the employee
Hello.
and I'm going to be the manager. So Nina, hello?
Hello. I'd like to explore what progression looks like for me here.
That's a really good question. So let's talk about what skills or results would position you for the next opportunity. It's something we need to spend some time looking at to make sure we're getting it right for you.
That's really helpful. I want to make sure that I'm focusing on the right things.
Do you see how one sentence turned an anxious thought into a career opening conversation? Let's do another one. So this time, a team member is feeling stuck and unsure how to progress. Nina's the employee again. Lucky her.
I'd like to understand what opportunities there are for me here to grow.
Now that's a really great question and something not a lot of people often ask. So let's look at where your strengths are making the most impact and where you'd like to develop further, and then look at what opportunities we can find to help you grow and use those strengths more.
Thank you. I want to make sure that I'm building towards the next step.
Great. Let's create this plan together so we feel clear on what's possible for you and also we have some clear action points.
Sounds like a good plan.
Great. Now, role play number 3, workload boundaries. So we've got a manager and they're piling extra projects onto a capable team member. I've seen that, I've experienced that, and they're already stretched. So Nina is going to be the employee again.
Oh gosh, I'd like to give this my best, but I need clarity on which priorities to focus on first.
Great question. And that's a really fair point. Let's look at what's already on your plate and decide what takes priority.
Oh, good. That way I can deliver well without things slipping.
So here you see, it just takes one question for you to open the conversation and then the manager to respond. And it sets the scene in the right positive tone. Okay, let's talk about what's the worst one sentence you've ever heard in a career conversation. That's a really interesting one. Nina, have you ever heard any the worst one sentence?
I'm leaving, I've had enough.
Hey, yeah, that is true. Or you just don't understand me and stomping out. I've had that. So what it tells you as well is it's not just the words though, is it?
In other words, it's also, that's not on my pay scale.
Yeah, yeah. I've had that one. Yeah.
It's not my
I'm not
job.
doing that. I'm
Yep.
not doing that. Not paid to do that. So, but what also happens, isn't it, is it's not just what's said, but it's the tone, isn't it? And the
Body language.
yeah, absolutely. I used to go in a meeting and I had another manager. We would meet with our manager and he would sit like this, legs on the table. So can you imagine what that said? It was very dismissive.
It is, definitely.
Have you ever seen bad examples of body language?
I have. I think going back to again, it was a local authority. I did work 13 years, so there is a reason for that. And I remember having one manager, I can actually see him now, and he wouldn't look at me. He'd be at his desk, he'd be looking at the computer and talking to me and just putting me down. And it could be something as simple as I was asking, are you happy with this message that I'm going to put on the answer machine because we used to work term time only for the term time. Yeah, 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 fine. And it
How
was,
dismissive.
yeah, it's so dismissive. But then if it was wrong, no, I didn't like that. I didn't like that. But just ignoring you. And the negative at the time, I remember it really got my back up. The positive is I knew how I didn't want to be a manager. And if somebody spoke to me, I would always look at them. I would always look at them eye to eye contact.
Yeah, and it's really funny, isn't it? Because another thing I've seen, you've just made me remember, is you'd have a manager typing away on their laptop, I mean, on their computer, and if they didn't want to give the time, they would keep doing that and not, like you say, not look at the person and being quite dismissive instead of turning around and saying, "Look, I'm really busy at the moment.
Hmm?
Let's set a time and a date that we can meet up and discuss this properly," which then makes a person feel really valued.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
So, finishing off, if you could give the people listening one sentence to use tomorrow, what would it be?
I could give a client one sentence to use tomorrow. What would that be? I would say to actually sit down, ask for a one-to-one meeting with your manager to discuss what your prospects are. If you're wanting promotion, you want to ask, how can you get promotion? What courses are on offer for you to do? Can any of these courses actually be done in work's time? Or is there any funding towards any courses going forward?
Yeah, no, that's really good advice because people tend to be frightened of asking that, don't they? And they tend to put off and feel uncomfortable. But actually, when you sit down and have that conversation with your manager, it makes your manager aware and they know what you're interested in, what you're looking for, and then they can work with your strengths and can look up for opportunities to help you. If you don't have that conversation, the manager doesn't know and they're making assumptions, which is from my point of view as a manager, you should be asking your team members, where do they see themselves in 2 years, in 5 years? Or also saying what was the job you enjoyed the most out of your career so far so that you start to understand their strengths and things. And people Don't give the time to these conversations, which is really important because if we are to value people, we need to make them feel recognized and rewarded.
Exactly, because so many people, they are scared to tell the manager what their, say, 5-year plans are. Because if it means leaving company, they're using this job now as a stepping stone. They think that they're going to be overlooked for promotions or they're going to be dismissed or bullied out of the company. Whereas in the old days, back to say our parents, they usually stayed in one career from when they were leaving school to when they retired.
Yeah,
And we're not like that anymore now. Things have changed.
no, I think you take the skills that you have now and you can do many different roles, but those skills that you start with, you will just grow and expand them and you will still use them. I think we sometimes forget this, that a lot of, especially the soft skills, we take to these different jobs.
We do.
And yeah, and we are in a position now where you're going to have many jobs in your lifetime, aren't you?
You are more than like, yeah, exactly. Things are completely changed. And actually, back to the question again, what could I give someone? What's the one question? Sentence. It's honesty. Whatever, just be honest.
Yeah,
Honest with yourself and honest with your team, honest with your management.
yeah. And I think that's a nice place for us to end until the next week.
That's lovely. Thank you, Nicola. I've enjoyed today's chat.
Yeah, thank you. It's been really nice to chat to you and bounce off you. This is the People Mentor signing off. Until next time, we'll see you again soon. Bye from us.
Goodbye. Thank you.